With tidal wave being verified almost 1 year ago, there are tons of upcoming top 1 projects that could be our next hardest level in the game. And so today I will be going over every upcoming top 1, giving a quick explanation of each one of them, where they're at and if they'll probably ever get finished, or if they're kinda just doomed. Also, I will not be covering Spectre, Waterfall, Orbit, or Aquamarine, as all of those have been deemed to most likely not even be near the top 1 spot. Aquamarine might be top 2, but it's also like not gonna get rated, there's no way, so I figure there's no point. Also, Tsunami, which was hinted by Unilink, the creator of Tidal Wave, should be on this list, but there's just not enough known about the project yet. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe. It always helps out the channel a ton. Plus, you'll see more content like this, and it would really be helpful, especially now, trying to get things back up and running after my GD Cologne style upload schedule for the past 4 weeks. Also, if there's an upcoming top 1 that I end up missing in today's video, feel free to comment it down in the comments below. But really quickly, before we get into all of that, I would like to announce that today's video is sponsored by Factor. If you're like me and your schedule is sometimes pretty booked, or maybe sometimes you really just don't feel like cooking, and you need an easy and flexible way to get delicious, ready-to-eat meals, Factor is here for you so you can eat stress-free this summer with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh and never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, which can come in really handy whether you have a super booked schedule, or you spend 10 hours a day playing video games during the summer while school is out like me, or if you are just really tired of cooking. With Factor, you can choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan or Vegetarian. In addition to all this, there are more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunches, snacks, beverages, you name it. This Factor takes the stress out of meal planning for you, meaning that you can skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Rest assured, with Factor, you are making a sustainable choice. Factor offsets 100% of delivery emissions and sources 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices. So you can continue with your busy schedule or just gaming, while eliminating all of the stress that comes along with meal planning. Get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video, and without further ado, we are back into the video. First, starting up with a very well-known level, Flame Wall. This level has been in verification for quite some time now, with one alpha helix dropping it towards the beginning of this year, and it being quickly picked up by Quattrocientos, who is currently making progress on the level. In fact, Quattrocientos actually has a level in 2 runs, with 40% and 39 to 100. So this level has a very good chance of becoming our next top 1, as it's fully finished and the verifier is making substantial progress on it, which will not end up being the case for all of it. You'll see. Next up after that, we have Ascension to Heaven, which has been slowly but surely getting decorated over time. Once it is fully decorated, it is slated to be verified by Denny and place it number 1 on the list. At least probably, there is a chance that this level will actually get nerfed down to top 3 difficulty, or it might just stay at the current difficulty it's at right now, and by the time it's verified, that's around top 3. Most likely, I do think the outcome will be that Ascension to Heaven will be made to specifically try to be the number 1 top hardest extreme demon, but there is still a chance that it gets nerfed, so I thought I'd at least mention it here. Ascension to Heaven's at least one of my personal favorites, as it is so incredibly well decorated. There's tons of details, and somehow most of the level is pretty well optimized. I've made tons of videos on why I like this level, you can check them out after this video. Next up is a level I don't think I've talked at all about before, and that is Scattered Faith, which is sort of like this castle-themed extreme demon. It has a lot of flow gameplay and seems pretty interesting to me, but I'm not entirely sure how long it's going to take for this level to be fully finished. The most recent preview I could find does state in the description that you should expect this level to be out by the end of the year, but my guess is that it might end up taking a bit longer, just given the level's unique style. Next up is Silent Acropolis by The Purgatory, currently being verified by Wavix. This is of course a remake of the old Silent Acropolis Impossible level, and honestly still a really cool level. Some absolutely banger decoration, The Purgatory just knocks it out of the park all the time. Not much else for me to say on this level that hasn't already been said, other than just the fact that I think it's really cool and I've already made a video on it. Verifier does have some decent progress on this, but I still wouldn't expect it to be verified this year, but it's a level I look forward to nonetheless. Next up is Heliopolis, which probably won't be top 1, although it does certainly have the potential to due to its unique structure and gameplay. A player by the name of Jif currently has 46% on the level, and is of course working on the verification currently, so my guess is we'll see this level verified within some point in the next 12 months or so. Heliopolis I think is a really underappreciated level, especially considering its super unique theme. Especially some of the parts in the second half of the level are just super interesting, and I feel get overshadowed a lot compared to some of Mindcap's other projects like Limbo and Return Zero. I would highly recommend go going and just watching the full showcase, because it's pretty cool. Next up we have Vehemence, which is another upcoming top 1 extreme demon, this time being verified by wpopoff. I've been a fan of this level for a very long time. It's themed after the Calamity mod for Terraria. It's super cool. If verified, it would be the first top 1 demon to have a boss fight, I think, ever? This is one of the ones I'm hyped the most for, especially because it's made by a bunch of creators who aren't as well known. This isn't like a huge charity team project or anything. It's just a small team of creators with a very underrated top 1 that's only been starting to gain some traction within the past year or so. At number 7 we have a Dramalek, which is like 5.5 minutes long and like a Turnus level difficulty, so it's not going to be released anytime soon. I did make a small like joke video on this level like over 2 years ago comparing this level I think to Morbius, which like low-key kind of still stands. It's a 5-minute hell level using a Dim Rain 47 song. Like that's pretty generic, but I do think it has a ton of potential. Like the little part of the level that is decorated does look pretty decent, so maybe this will be a club banger in like 2030. I mean, the level's moving at a very slow pace anyways, so we probably won't see anything more from this for years. Speaking of another level that'll probably never get finished, we have Misanthrope. Misanthrope was first unveiled like almost half a decade ago. This is like an Orochi situation where it's a very well-known level within the community and it's been around for a very long time, but the actual decoration process has just been very slowly happening in the background, or just not happening in the background for a very long time. Except there actually is some progress being made on Misanthrope. There is like occasionally parts that are made in the level from time to time, so it is slowly getting worked on, but I'm pretty sure this level would be old enough to go to kindergarten by now. Like it's been a hot second. It's also a very long level. I think it's around 6.5 minutes if I recall correctly. In a lot of ways it's sort of a modern day Impossible level with all kinds of very, very recognizable names attached to it, with even people like Riot and Cyclic getting in on parts of the gameplay. I am pretty hyped for this level, mostly because it's just such a massive project, and it has all of these super huge names in the level from like past eras that did bits of gameplay, but it's a little bit like a Dramalek in the sense that it probably will be a club banger in like 10 years. I will probably remake this video in like 2 years or something, and it will still be on this list. Another level pretty much in the same situation is Galaxy Collapse, which was originally meant to be hosted by Trusta, if that gives you any idea of how long this level's been around, with him as a listed verifier, but since then, Sir Jaco, the host of Ruthless, and Zol, as well as Trusta a little bit, have been teaming up to continue work on the project. There is still some hope for this level. There is some occasional new parts coming out, but it's, again, very slow and probably will take quite some time given how long the level is, especially considering that a lot of the parts that are older that were made a few years ago for this level are kind of outdated now and they might need to be replaced. So the future of this level is very uncertain, but hey, at least it looks really cool, and honestly, no matter what, I'm still really rooting for this level to get finished. Next up is Amethyst, which is hosted by a very non-controversial person and also being verified by a very non-controversial person. Amethyst, hosted by Mist, currently being verified by Trick, is one of the levels that I think has the best shot of actually being our next top 1, and it looks pretty good. I've analyzed this level to death already, but just quickly I'll say, I think it looks cool, it's got a unique theme, and it's better than Avernus Cry about it. Another top 1 that has a very good chance of becoming the next hardest level verified in the game is Grief. However, when this level gets verified, there will probably be a giant controversy surrounding it, given that Doggie is currently verifying this level using the CBF mod. And considering RobTop said he's going to add his own version of the CBF mod into the game that we should quote-unquote not get our hopes up about, because it's not going to be the same thing, because I guess he's just too busy exploring himself instead of just getting the developer of the actual CBF mod to collaborate with him, which he has more than enough resources to do. This level will probably cause a lot of controversy when it is verified, and it might not even get rated, so in some ways that kind of lessens its chance of becoming the next like top 1, but there's also a chance that we have like a revolution and everyone sort of realizes that the rating system is BS anyways, and we just let unrated levels on the demon list, so I honestly have no idea. Regardless, I'm pretty sure everyone watching this video is at least fairly familiar with this level, so I won't really go over anything else. But I do think that Doggie could probably get this verified by the end of the year. Next up is Banshee, which is technically the sequel to Hard Machine, but the thing that makes this level pretty unique is the fact that it is only being shown in the verifier's progress videos, SB Crate's verifier. And so since he's only gotten to I think 86% on the level, we've only seen the first 86%. We don't technically know what the end of the level looks like, which I think is a really interesting way of revealing a new upcoming level. It's possible possible that this is just somewhere in the top 3 and not necessarily a top 1, but there's still a pretty good chance that it's a bit underrated. But given the verifier's progress on the level, I would assume that this level is probably going to be released, or I guess verified by the end of the year. So yeah, I think by the end of the year we have Amethyst, Grief, and Banshee all to look forward to. Switching gears back into levels that will probably never get finished, we have Exasperation. Listen, a lot of people really hated the original Exasperation, which I think makes a lot of sense, and also C1997 made a video on it criticizing it, so obviously everyone was gonna hate it. Some people swear by this level and say that it is the best thing ever and that it's peak, just trust me bro. And I'm gonna be honest, I could not care less about this level. I've watched previews of this and it makes me feel nothing. It makes my soul like stop existing. I don't even hold that against any of the decorators or the host. I feel like at this point it's just because you're trying to remake a steaming pile of doo-doo garbage. Which, I mean, I guess was kind of the original point of the level considering it was meant to be an impossible level. This is just kind of the same thing that happens when you make generic remakes of old impossible levels. I don't know, maybe this level will get finished. I don't know. Whatever. Next up, I want to really quickly mention Eternal Night, because I know the project is dead, but I'm kind of huffing hopium right now. I really like this level. There was supposed to be a bit of a redecoration to it. One part was showcased in the redecoration like 2 years ago, and there has been radio silence since. Curse made some progress on it a couple of years back, and I think technically it's still Swyborg's verification, but Swyborg is physically incapable of touching the game for more than 15 seconds, which is the reason why he has absolutely killed this project, along with the Deimos hosted by Skelly and the Nemesis. So it's a cool level, but it'll never get released because the Joe Biden of Geometry Dash is still sitting on the verification, so we'll see, I guess. I do still really want this level to be released, though. Next up is Kocmoc Unleashed, which has some really amazing decoration, but it's also kind of just there now that it's been finished because it was made for a Russian player who was making progress on the unnerfed version of Kocmoc, if I recall correctly, so it's like super difficult, and if it was ever verified, it would be top 1 for like a couple of years. But that's probably not going to be happening for quite some time, so it kind of feels like another Eternus situation. Speaking of, Eternus is an upcoming top 1, but it's really an impossible level, hosted by Riot and stuff, and just sort of deemed by everyone that it is the spiritual successor to Tartarus and Acheron. It's meant to be sort of like a silent clubstep of the modern day, in that it will be verified years into the future when the skill ceiling is incomprehensible to people in the community today. Next up is Orochi, which actually is having some progress on it more recently. I know it's been over a year since the last official preview, but from what I understand, kocmoc is still working on it occasionally, which sounds like not that much, but kocmoc is pretty busy with like 50 billion collab parts all the time. And also, just working on the level occasionally is already very fast-paced compared to most of Orochi's history. Next up, we have Kugelblitz's version of Death Corridor, which he is still occasionally working on. It's been finished for a very long time, and Rob has guaranteed a rate for it like years ago. And considering that Kugelblitz has been working on this level for something like 6 years at least, I would say this will probably end up being released sometime between Adramelech and Misanthrope. Next up we have Tidal Wave Infinity. A brief explanation for why this level is even on this list. Basically, back when Tidal Wave was in its rate drama, Verdun proposed that Cherry Team make a redecoration of the level to help get the level rated, which honestly at the time was not necessarily a bad idea. But then Tidal Wave got rated like a week later, so there wasn't really much of a point of the level really continuing to exist. But if you put Tidal Wave in the title of your video, then you get billions of dollars. So Vernum, who was notorious for not doing things for attention, and also of course famous for not causing drama, because why would he do that, decided that Tidal Wave Infinity was going to go on and just be a level, I guess. I'm sure it will be absolutely freaking amazing, and it'll get released in like 2026, and everybody's gonna love it because it'll look absolutely stunning. But there will be zero people who want to play it because Tidal Wave already exists, and if this is just going to be harder than Tidal Wave, there is literally zero reason for anyone to play it. So Vernum, if you're watching this, you want a fame and attention and all that, okay, I have a plan, right? Step 1, keep hyping this level up as the next big upcoming top 1. Throw all of Cherry Team's weight behind it, do the whole song and dance, it'll piss off a lot of people, it'll be hilarious. Step 2, pull a prank with Space UK and announce him as a legitimate verifier of the level, and have him no-clip a couple streams of getting some progress on the top 1 version of the level. Then orchestrate this drama where Space UK throws a fit about how the level both needs to be nerfed and super buffed at the same time, then eventually gets exposed and starts verifying the amethyst, I don't know, something else. And then step 3, is to just super nerf the level to like insane demons so everyone can play it. Trust me, Vernon, this would be the absolute pinnacle of trolling. It would be amazing. Please do this immediately. Okay, next level. The next level I want to mention is Injury, which probably, again, isn't necessarily top 1, but it could be underrated and just end up placing it number 1, although I don't think this level is long enough for it to be rated, especially since Raptop has kind of decided to be really skeptical of rating extreme demons that are in like the top 10 these days, so yeah, it kind of feels like Slaughterhouse if it was blue, is the vibe I get from it. Next up after that we have Every End, which a lot of people think is boring, and they're kind of right, but it's also really interesting in the sense that it's like completely 1.0 aesthetics and only cube gameplay, which is quite interesting because eventually after a certain amount of time you just run out of things that you can put in the level. But Mindcap kind of found a way to keep at least putting something new in the level as it kept going on, in the same way that you would see with old 1.0 levels that were trying to be really difficult. Also, the background effect is kind of cool. The Verifier has some progress on the level, but it probably won't be fully finished until, I mean, who knows? It's a very difficult long level, so I could see this getting verified anytime from this December to 2027. Next up, we have two very similar levels. They're both pretty similar to like the Griefer Impossible levels or like Slaughterhouse, and those are Vivisect and Aztec. I think they both actually use the same song, if I'm not mistaken, but in theory, both of these could be potential upcoming top 1s. I don't think either one of these has a verifier last I checked, but they are somewhat interesting, especially if you're a big fan of the Griefer levels. I am convinced that Griefer is just Icecave in disguise, not gonna lie, but that's a subject for another video. Next up is the Ton 618 remake, which there's only a few parts for, but it still looks really cool, and honestly, I don't even think this will ever get finished. But I still wanted to mention it here as if nothing else but a tribute, because I still think Ton 618 is one of the most interesting Impossible levels, given that it actually has its own like unique decoration, and isn't like old enough to drive. Also, if you see quote-unquote new previews for this level on this channel, they are probably fake. Pretty much all of them just have a green screen effect for the background of like realistic space footage. It's clickbait, don't fall for it. Next up we have Eternal Silence, which I mean basically just means unnerfed silent clubstep. Whether unnerfed silent clubstep is verified with the redecorated version from 2022 remains to be seen. I don't even know if anyone has the patience to go for unnerfed silent clubstep, but in theory it could happen, so I threw it on this list. Next up, we have the two upcoming Chris Has a Lisp top 1s, which are YGG Drazzle and Violent spelled with a Y. I'll show YGG Drazzle first. These are both pretty interesting levels, very effect heavy as is common for Chris levels, at least these days. I think these are both some pretty interesting levels. They're both super different than top 1s we've had in the past, and they're both fairly close to being finished. Specifically, I do think that Violent is probably going to be finished within the year, so it would be really exciting to see a level like this go up against beasts like Banshee and the two very non-controversial levels of Amethyst and Grief. We only got a few left, but next up is Azure Flare, which in my mind is being verified by Vertop because Aiden GD has been kidding himself for the past 4 years. Vertop actually does have some pretty decent progress on a more recent version of this level, so if this level does actually ever get verified, I do think that it is most likely that he will be the one to do it. Not much else to say about it, it's the same level that it was like 3 years ago. Second last, we have the Human Limit, which is currently being re-hosted by Cherry Team. I'm actually still kind of excited for this one. I am sad to see some of the old parts go, but the new gameplay structure is way better than the old level, which was kind of just like a Slaughterhouse remake in a lot of ways. I still feel like it's kind of weird having it be named the Human Limit because it will be so incredibly outdated the actual picosecond that it falls off of the top 1 spot, but hey, it's at least an interesting level. And finally we have Silent Jumper, which I didn't know existed until I made the community post, double checking to see if I had missed any upcoming Extreme Demons. I don't really have much to say about it. I think it looks kind of cool. It's currently being decorated. It probably won't be verified for a while. I mostly added it here because I think it would be absolutely hilarious for this level to be at the number 1 spot. That's kind of it really. I think it's just some decorators having fun decorating a top 1 level. And so yeah, those are all of the upcoming top 1 Extreme Demons that I could find that actually might have a chance at being finished. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like, subscribe. Again, helps out the channel a ton. You've heard this yapping a whole bunch of times from everyone, but it is true and I'd very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video. Please use my link in the description for the discount. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.
Goodbye.